Good morning, all. This is Woodturners Coffee Hour for December 29th, the last coffee hour of the year. I think it's number 131 or 132, somewhere like that in the series. It's an amazing series that we've kept going for a long time. I see it's going to be show and tell this morning. A couple of announcements first, and I'm going to seize the first spot in show and tell for a minute. The main announcement is that the regular Lancaster club meeting is next Tuesday night right here in New Holland, PA. It'll be a hybrid meeting. You can log in on Zoom or you can come here in person. And we will have an amazing demonstration by Doug about how to do a large off-center turning using counterbalancing weights. So it's a thing you can do on a small lathe or a large lathe, but he's going to do it on a large lathe, and we'll all be able to see how what he does. But what he basically does is mount the block of wood on an auxiliary faceplate, and then add counterweight so that it goes around nicely so that he can turn it without shaking the lathe to pieces or the shop. So it's a really nice technique, and it's an advanced technique, and it's a fun one to see. So that'll be on Tuesday. Also, on the second Saturday in January, we will have another in our ongoing now series of open shops here in New Holland, 9 a.m. to noon. It's a marvelous opportunity to meet people and brush up on your turning skills. Last time we had, I don't know, 3 or 4 beginners, and they were outnumbered by the experts. There's 4 lathes here, so you can turn, you can watch somebody turn. It's lots of opportunity. And I'm promoting it because it'll only keep going and be fun if more people start showing up, and I think they will. It's a great opportunity to meet people, to ask questions, to try stuff, to learn stuff, to show off what you know, and to watch other people who are much more expert than you showing off what they know. So that's the second Saturday in January, and the second Saturday every month after that. It is dues season at Lancaster Woodturners. We have 99 registered members right now, and 68 have paid their dues for 2023. So we're in the last push to finish dues collection, which I'd like to do early in January if we possibly can. You can show up here and give me cash. You can mail a check to my home address because I'm the club treasurer, or you can use PayPal to me again, John Kelsey, K-E-L-S-E, no Y on my name, at Gmail. And I will immediately, when that lands, transfer that through to the club bank account. I have not been able to set up a second PayPal. PayPal just doesn't like that. And Doug just walked over here and handed me his dues. Now I got to remember whose it is, but I will, because I know it's Doug. He's the only other guy here. So those are the announcements. While I'm holding the fort, though, I'm going to put the spotlight on me. Am I on speaker? Are you guys seeing me in speaker, or are you seeing gallery? What are you seeing?
I'm seeing you on gallery, but
okay, I'm going to put it on spotlight because I'm going to show you some stuff, and then I'm going to go to the rest of you all for show and tell. Before I do that, any other announcements? I think Susquehanna's having a meeting. Susquehanna's doing the farm show, and you can talk to Randy about that. They're always collecting volunteers for the farm show. Okay, I'm going to spotlight me because I want to show you some things that I've been making in the shop. I've been back in the shop lately, which is new for me because my health has not allowed it for a while, and I've got it back. So first thing I did is I went down there, I made myself a walking cane because the physical therapist taught me how to use one. They said, oh yeah, you can use that now. And guess what? I don't need it anymore. But I have a nice cane anyhow for when I need it again. And I think I could probably use it to get up subway steps. I actually made 3 of them. I found there's a lot of this kind of hardware online. This is a really nice piece. There's a lot of connectors that let you make the cane in 2 parts so you can put it in the suitcase. And there's a lot of these little feet of different sizes. Of course, the physio people said you want a great big fat foot with tread on it. And I have a cane like that too. But the real exercise was making a long straight shaft that was appropriately tapered. That was harder than I thought it was going to be. I don't have a steady rest. I did it the way I always do these things, with wrapping my hand around the workpiece. And it was fun. It was a good exercise. I found the way to do it, because I practiced a bunch, is to get the blank round and then get it all to uniform diameter, and then to set in the diameters you want, the smallest, the biggest, the in-between, and then you can connect them. But you got to hold the workpiece with your one hand and get your thumb on the tool in order to be your own steady rest. At least that's how I do it. And this works pretty good. The other thing I got heavy into, and I would like to talk about for a minute, is little wooden boxes for pills or snuff or whatever you need to carry in your pocket. A few years ago, I was lucky enough to make this little boxwood box, and it snaps shut. I can't even get it open right now without getting fingernails in it. Yeah, there. it's like one of those raffin things where there's a little wee recess here, a little wee nibble here, and a little wee recess here, and it goes together and it just snaps, and it's boxwood, and it's maybe a 16th, 3/32 thick. So I really like that. I've probably tried to duplicate it 20 times and have failed every time. So the next thing I tried with boxes was making these ones like Raffin makes and Angelo makes, where there's a long thing. You can get a piston fit if you get it right. Well, I probably made 20 of those that I didn't get it right either. Here's one here in boxwood. This is a nice one. I don't know if you can see it. But it's loose. Turn it upside down, the lid falls off. You can't put that in your suitcase or your pocket and get anywhere. So then I made these. These are also little boxwood ones, and this one works. The fit is good. It stays put. It's cross grain rather than end grain. No, it's end grain, but it does turn to a place where it's tight and doesn't come apart. So that's a successful little guy. Then I got into magnet boxes. Because I can't make screw threads. I had one I found one time that has beautiful little screw threads. I cannot do that. So I got into making them with magnets. This is one that's divided in two parts, and it's thick here because there's magnets buried in here, so the close is tight, and the lid, you turn the lid to get it off, and the lid goes on, and it's on there tight. So that worked pretty good. But it makes a bulky box. It makes this, you got to have enough room in here for the magnets. So then this week I thought, let me combine that. Let me do this. So I made a little post in the middle of the box. The magnet's there, and there's a magnet in the lid. So the lid goes on, and this one is a two-sided guy. So this is like your morning meds and your evening meds, or whatever it is you're doing, your mornings, whatever's. This is pear wood, and it's not finished. It's just waxed, buffed and waxed. So the middle piece is like this. It's a drum. Rich Colvin is asking if someone with the club will send out information for Tuesday. Yes, they will. That'll come from Tom Wenzel. His email is Vintage Blues Guitars. So that's who it'll come from. But anyway, that'll be sent out if it hasn't been already. So that's a three-part box, and I like this design. I think it's got a lot of promise. So then I made another one out of rosewood, or I think it's actually tulip wood. It's quite large. Same setup, but this time I managed to reduce the height of the pillar by putting half of it in the lid and half of it in the box. So you can open the box this way, or you can open it this way. And you got, again, one compartment and another compartment and a centerpiece like that. So now I'm on a roll with this. And the next one I make, I'm going to find a way to park the magnets over here so that it'll twist on and off. So I've been making wooden dowels, drilling a hole in them, getting a magnet in it, and parting it off and trying to have it end up exactly the right length. So that, because these don't want to kiss, they want to, not quite bang together when this goes together. They want to be some distance in there so it's nice and easy moving. Rich Colvin says, what about two different colored ends, one for AM and another for PM? Yeah, I was going to do that, but I wanted to get it to work right first. And I was going to color this by painting this or putting something on it like a veneer, or else a little dot on each side, a yellow and a blue for morning and evening. I think lots of things like that are possible. Actually, the one I want to do next is a stack of 7, so I can get a week's worth of morning and evening meds in one cylinder, and I can chuck in a suitcase and quit worrying about it. That'll be much nicer than the plastic thing. So that's my current quest. I'm pretty happy with it. I think this is a pretty nice piece. It's got a little recess here, so it sits flat on the table. It has a top and a bottom. And again, there's no finish on that except wax. It's just buffed and waxed. And boy, I did not realize this rosewood would buff up so beautifully. It's not actually rosewood. I think it's tulip wood. It's a bunch of wood I bought at an auction some years ago. And I've been working my way through it slowly. It's not great quality, but there you can get good pieces out of it. So those are my adventures. That's my show and tell. Comments and questions.
John, you should do us a video on how you did that, because I'm trying to imagine the sequence of what you turned when and all that. So.
I will do that once I get it figured out. I've done it every.
Okay.
The thing is, though, there's the thing about magnet boxes. You see, you don't want a tight fit. You want a loose fit. If you do a tight fit, you just get in the way of the magnets. So I can do a loose fit. It's the tight fit is the one I can't do. So that makes it, when you're doing a box with a tight fit, you got to make the lid first, then the other part. But when you're doing one with a loose fit, it doesn't matter. You can make the, so what I've been doing is I make this piece using calipers so that it's the same, and then I make this to fit. And that has working pretty good. But if I was trying to make it to be a tight sliding fit, I couldn't do it. You can't do it that way. But when you want a loose fit, that works fine. So that's me. Anybody else? Questions?
John, just,
yeah.
I think that would be wonderful. I've been looking for a 3-inch diameter disc, a plastic thing for putting my sanding discs in.
Yeah.
With the stackable like that.
Yep.
There is nothing available. So actually using that idea and making just for putting, 3-inch diameter for maybe putting 50 sanding discs in, and then you can just go through the stack like you do before and just whatever. So I think that's, it applies to that too. So
yeah, I agree. And when you get it so it stacks, rather than this little piece here is symmetrical, it's the same this side and this side. If you're going to stack it, one side goes over, one's an innie and one's an outie. So I fooled around with that. I didn't have the skill to do it last time I fooled around, but I think I do now.
Well, I think the other key is having a magnet to make sure that it's sticking together as opposed to trying to get a tight fit for something like that, because the magnet fit will make it so it's easier to get apart and more usable.
But the trouble with the magnet fit is where are you going to put the discs? And the magnet's in the middle of the box. You got to.
Okay.
Got to solve that one.
I got an idea. Anyway.
Well, okay, that's my adventure. Who's next? John Chalikian. John contacted me last week. He wants to talk about buying lathes, and I think it's a great topic. He's looking at a Grizzly, so I'm going to put the spotlight on John. What are you going to say today, John?
Yeah, hi. And Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, and Happy Holidays to everyone. I'm interested in getting a Grizzly 2242 22-inch diameter by 42-inch long Grizzly lathe. They're having a sale that ends tomorrow. You save $300, which is basically the shipping cost. Anyway, I'm wondering if anyone has one of these Grizzly lathes, either this 22-inch or one of the other ones. I have a Grizzly bandsaw 17-inch that I've been real happy with. And I've been very impressed with their support every time I've called them up, which is 2 or 3 times. Maybe wait 5 minutes or something like that. But the most impressive thing is people are in the US and they know what they're talking about when you ask them a question, which is really nice. So I'm interested to see if anyone in the group here has a Grizzly lathe and what they think of it. Particularly interested in how smooth the variable speed is, how the banjo moves, that sort of thing. So can anybody give me any info?
What do you think, you guys? What do you got?
Well, John, this is Ted. I have that exact lathe. It's been a good lathe. I did have some initial problems with it, but as you said, Grizzly support is excellent. So the error was corrected. They send me actually the shaft was out of round, so everything wobbled. I didn't know it. I sent them a video with the guy online. He said, "Oh, that's what it is." He said, "Send us the head back, and we'll replace it for you," which they did.
Wow, that's nice.
It's been a very good lathe. The variable speed is wonderful. I also like the fact that it's a 3-phase motor. It's, as you probably read, it's 220 volts coming in single phase. There's an electronic conversion to 3-phase, so you have a nice reverse. I also like the fact that when you dial it down, it's electronically controlled. The speed coming down is controlled. So it's not a top of the line lathe. But for the money, it's an excellent lathe. And as I said, any issue I've had, they've dealt with.
What makes it not top of the line?
Well, the fact that there was initial problems to begin with. That being said, I got this thing when it first came out. They're made in China. And the problem with Chinese manufacturing is they can be very good, but if something goes wrong in their line, they don't stop, they ship it anyways. Had it not been for Grizzly, I would have never bought it from China. I prefer, when I buy Grizzly tools, I have a 19-inch Grizzly bandsaw. I love it. I have several Grizzly tools back from 1984 when they first started. And the other beauty of Grizzly is you can get parts from, 40 years ago. It's great. but the quality is pretty good. I mean, the cast is all fine, all that's good. The motor control's fine, electronic control, but again, you might have to deal with an issue. I'm not saying you will. I know other people have bought it in my local club and they had no problem at all. So I do recommend it for the money.
I've had a bunch of other Grizzly machines and been quite happy with them. I have a bandsaw or a drill press I probably bought back when they got started in the mid 80s, early 80s. And it's a piece of crap, but on the other hand, it's worked for almost 40 years without any trouble. It's the finish is no good. You know, you got a lot of fettling to do, a lot of filing off sharp burrs and stuff like that to make it into a nice machine.
I think they've improved in that regard.
Yeah.
And if you can get a Taiwan, like my son last year bought a 20-inch Grizzly planer. It's a marvelous machine, but we made sure it was built in a 9001 factory, so it was not made in China. The stuff coming out of Taiwan is significantly better than the Chinese stuff. As you might notice on Grizzly, they'll tell you, you know, if it's Taiwanese or Chinese.
Yeah, I believe this one is Taiwan.
Then, yeah, I think they switched. I know they switched because the price is higher now. But if it's a Taiwanese machine, you'll be very happy. I suspect you'd be happy with it.
Okay, great. Thank you. Appreciate the info.
And don't forget, a lot of people in America realize about the Chinese problem with the manufacturing. So even if it's some in the last 30 years, the requirements out of American manufacturers have increased significantly. So it's not as bad as it used to be 30 or 40 years ago for Chinese made.
Well, 30, 40 years ago, they didn't make it in China. They only started making stuff in China a few years ago. Prior to that, everything was made in Taiwan. I mean, I have a joiner from them, 1984, made in Taiwan. It was fabulous. Never had a problem with it.
Well, I used to work for Wilkie Machinery. They imported the Bridgewood line of machines. I did their owner manuals, and Wilkie told me one time that the thing about dealing with China on buying machinery is if they'll ask you what you want to pay, and you tell them what you want to pay, and they're not going to insult you by saying it's too low. They'll find a way to make it for that price, even if they sweep up sweepings off the floor and press them into the casting hole and paint them green and call it a casting. They'll do that if it'll get the price. So it really is on the importer to not try and get the absolute rock bottom price, because you won't get any quality. You got to pay for what you want, what you get, and the importers have become much more savvy about that in the last 15, 20 years, I think.
That's absolutely true. The planer that we bought, the 20-inch planer, was $600 more because it came out of Taiwan rather than China. So you can make that
Yeah.
switch. I also told Grizzly in feedback on the machines that I've got a lot of Grizzly equipment. I said I'll never buy another Grizzly product from China. I think they heard that from a lot of people.
How can you find that out?
Well, it tells you where they're manufactured.
Oh, it does. Okay, yeah. Ted, separately to you, the heat pump that works in Saskatchewan, the brand name is Gree, Gree.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. That's my son has just installed that in his house in Shelburne Falls, Massachusetts, which is pretty kind of like where you are, and he says it works great.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Hey, John, the guy I bought my XP, my Nova XP from, replaced it with a Grizzly, and I have to, I could give you his contact information. He's really we kept in touch after I bought it, and I'll check what model. He told me what model he bought. He said he just couldn't see putting the money into the big high-end robusts and stuff like that. So he's had it now for a couple months, so we'll see how he likes it. I can give you that information separately.
Okay, great.
I also have that same lathe, John, and I've had virtually no problems with it, other than in the beginning, the rheostat went out. And again, great service from Grizzly. They replaced it in just a very, very short time. They were able to diagnose the problem, and everything was great. My concern, or not really a concern, but I'm vertically impaired. So this 22-inch lathe, the spindle height is too tall for me. I built a little platform to stand on. I think they use the same legs on on their 12-inch machine. So it really is just a little bit too tall. As far as quality, everything seems to be good. I thought it was the best lathe on the market until I used a Powermatic here a few months ago, and the Powermatic is a much better lathe. Just seems to be smoother, heavier, and it's shorter.
Right, yeah, and double the price.
More than that.
Yeah, I'm also worried about the weight of like a Powermatic. I have a shop that was delivered, so it's a 2x4 floor with sitting on 4x4 purlins, and I called up. I got it from Stallfoot's, which is in Ackland, just outside of Lancaster, and it's actually designed for a car, but I think the 800-900 pounds of the Powermatic is a real problem. Also, just getting it back to my shop. It's another one, but yeah, it's money factor there.
I'm a big fan of the robust lathes, and I have a robust Scout. It was really pricey, but boy, it's been a great lathe for me. And after I'd had it about 2 years, 3 years, one of the switches inside it fried from dust getting inside it. I phoned them up. They sent me a new switch for free. I got there the next day. It was absolutely perfect customer service. But then you pay for it for a made in U.S. machine. Somebody else put in the chat, Ken Vasco puts in the chat that look for ISO 9001 certification for a machine. I think that's a good point if you want a really good quality machine as well. Somebody else puts in the chat, Dave Belisle, that I can adjust the fit of these little boxes by painting CA glue on the part that's too small and letting it dry, and do that repeatedly until it fits perfect. That's not a bad idea. I'm going to try that. It didn't ever occur to me I could do that. I thought maybe I might have to, I don't know. I didn't know that it was a way. I think I've always felt I just got to get better at it. And then I make another one and it still doesn't fit. What I really did about that is I asked the club to schedule Angelo, who knows how to do these things like a god, to do a demo one time and show us all how to get a perfect sliding fit on a long, tall box. So I'm going to look forward to that sometime in the spring. I'm sorry to derail you. I just was getting the chats cleared. Any more on the Grizzly issue for John? Have you got what you need?
Yes, thank you. I think I'll be ordering it later today.
Okay.
I appreciate everyone's input.
Let me see if I can figure out how to get the spotlight off you, or what have I got here? I'm on speaker view. I don't think you got a spotlight. Okay.
No.
Who's next? Toby, we put you off last week. You want to go?
Sure.
Okay.
All right.
We're looking at you.
Gotcha. About 30 years ago or so, I picked up some seeds from a local park, and I planted them in my garden. They were tree seeds. I didn't know what kind of tree it was at the time. I've since found out it's a Kentucky coffee tree. So I planted them in my garden, and it took about 3 years before they sprouted. Then they grew for about 3 years, and then I decided, well, I need to put my garage where the garden was. So I had to transplant this. There were 4 trees, I think, at the time that came up. So I transplanted them closer to the house near my porch. They grew there for another 30 years or so. And then just this summer, I put solar panels on my porch roof. Well, this tree was there in the afternoon, was shading my solar panels, so it had to come down. So this is one of the, can you see it all right? Yeah. Kentucky coffee tree. I made around 6 of these already, and I have another 6 or so to do. I dyed one blue, which sold this over the Christmas season, and 2 others like this sold. They were all about the same size, different thicknesses. But Kentucky coffee tree that I started from seed.
Nice.
How many years did that grow?
30 to 35 years total.
Oh, okay.
There was about 12 inches in diameter at the base.
Okay.
So
then I got numerous branches from the tree also that I will make trees and mushrooms and bud vases out of.
Have you got more trees where you've done that?
Yes. What do you mean done that?
Planted the tree and in order to harvest the wood.
Well, I did a princess tree, the Paulownia. I have one of those in the front of the house here. That's the only other one that I recall that I started from seed.
Okay. I'm curious about this. Just a second. I got screen confusion here. I'm working with a laptop. Okay, I'm gonna take the spotlight off you and go back to a gallery view so I can see other people. I'm curious about whether other people do that. Do you guys plant trees so that you can harvest the wood later on, or your children can?
I haven't planted any, but I have a piece of land that we've got a wood lot, and it also includes a piece of land that my parents used to have, and my dad planted cherry trees like 50 years ago, and my son and I are going to put a building there. So we've got these huge, 18, 20-inch diameter, 100-foot tall cherry trees.
Those are northern grown too. That'll be tight rings.
They will. It'll be very nice wood. So we're looking forward to turning that into lumber and turning supplies.
Rich Colvin has planted maple trees. I see Carl Litzkow had his hand up on that. Who else?
Oh, well, thank you. An interesting thing that you fellows up north won't worry about, but I picked up some black walnut nuts here in North Carolina, took them back to Florida, put them in little pots with potting soil and talked to them and played music.
Oh, he's frozen.
Formed it all the way out later. If you take it to Florida, you have to put the nut in the freezer so that the nut understands.
Yeah, the nut has
come. Just a little bit of humor or education.
The nut has to have winter before it'll grow. That's for sure. Yeah, I have black walnuts in my yard that were planted around 1983 when the house was built. I'm going to let them grow forever. They'll outlive me, I hope. Well, I know they will. Toby, did you have more to show, or was that your show today?
Oh, that was it.
Okay. Anybody else on trees and growing wood for your own tourneys?
I should have listened to my father-in-law. He told me whenever I buy a place, I should plant trees right away. And our homestead, we lived at 40-some years, and I never planted trees. And I was disappointed. I said to my wife, if I listened to your dad, I'd have had some beautiful trees down there. We had room for them. So, now it's too late to learn that trick. So.
Yeah. Well, my mother's family farm in Alberta, they planted, my mother told me she remembered planting trees around 1920 when she was a little kid. And when I visited there as a little kid, I remember climbing those trees. And when I went back there as an adult a few years ago, the trees are huge. So, and I don't think my cousins are going to cut them down. I think they want the windbreak. They live on the prairie.
I was lucky when we bought this cottage in 2000. They had planted trees, maples, back in the 30s when they built this community. Well, they were huge and threatening the house. So we took down 3 big ones. So I have lots of maple wood and a lot of spalted maple wood, actually. So, yeah. But that wasn't me planting them.
Rich Coleman reminds us of the Japanese point that you don't plant trees for yourself, you plant them for your children. Good point. Yeah. Let's see, who's next here? Ray, we haven't heard from you in a while. What do you want to do?
Hey, John. A while back, we talked about embellishment. Somebody brought up the fact that Ryobi used to have a corded carver, and it was before its time. It kind of went out of production. The other day, I just happened to find that they've reintroduced that as cordless, as a small handheld power carver for about $50.
Is it a carver or a sander?
It's a carver.
Handheld. I have one.
How do you like it?
I love it. But then I don't know what sophisticated ones are.
USB charge. The thing about those now, I don't know if they use the same blades that they used to, but the ones that Woodcraft carries for the good carvers are supposed to fit that. You'd have to check it. That they used to fit the older one.
Well, mine uses the Ryobi standard batteries, the 18 volts or whatever that they use for battery for trails and all that.
Okay, this one uses an 8-volt. So it's not the regular battery. It's one. It comes with it's about $50 at Home Depot. You shop around, you can get them a lot cheaper than what you see them advertised for. But it was $50, the carver, the battery, and a cord to plug in the USB.
Now, what do you mean a carver? Is it reciprocating? What does it do?
Yes, it's like
a hammer drill.
Yeah, like a hammer drill. Yeah.
I also bought a little Ryobi right angle sander. It's about the size of this bottle. It's about this long, and it takes a 2 or a 3-inch disc, and it has its own little 3-sided proprietary battery that I bought a second one of for $26. It's a great little detail sander, finish sander for turnings. I've been converted to power sanding my turnings, which I never did before, because of this little machine.
John, are you sure that's not a rigid? They have the 3-sided batteries.
It's definitely a Ryobi, but rigid might have an equivalent. I don't know. I mean, they might make it for rigid. I have no idea.
Well, mine doesn't reciprocate, Ray. It's circular. I put a saber tooth or saber.
Yeah, this is listed as a Ryobi. Just if you do a search for Ryobi carver, when you see it, you'll see it's like the old. It's actually even looks a little smaller. Hand size. So it looks like they're coming back in.
So did you buy it, or are you looking to buy it?
No, I actually have one of the old corded ones, and I had it and didn't use it much, and then it kind of come back in favor. So it was like, oh yeah, I got this. So I may resurrect it. But then I saw this, and for $50, really, if you're not doing a lot of embellishment, and if it works okay, a couple uses pays for it. And they're getting into the stuff, like you said, small sanders and stuff like that are unique. Their own battery, you recharge them USB, anything. All this stuff is lithium ion now, so they seem to work pretty good.
Yeah.
Okay, let me move on to this. I got one of these rules that Ernie talked about: metric on one side. Let me get this: metric on one side and standard on the other side. Nice for the price. It was cheap. It is a nice in the pocket thing. The only thing I say about this, now this isn't bad, is metric really is a way to go for guys that can't do numbers, because it's great for the accuracy. And visually, what you can do with a metric scale is you can get down probably with halfway decent eyesight to 1/3 of a millimeter pretty easy. The only thing you got to do is what I found working on the other side, the industrial side, is whenever you get one like this, a lot of times we find that there was fat, we call them fat millimeters. The manufacturers make these, and when you check the first millimeter, it's a fat millimeter. And this one's it's pretty close, but it's not dead on. But I just suggest that for anybody that gets a tape or anything to check it, because as long as you use the same scale, your stuff comes out the same. You swap scales, keep wondering why you're off by a millimeter or two. So it just happens. And the last thing was, while I was looking for that, Lee Valley had something that I've been looking for, and this is a tape measure. It reads right to left for us right-handers. And this one ended up to be, they call it blind man's tape. Well, I didn't do it for my eyesight. I'm not quite that bad yet. It just has big numbers. But the thing is for people that hold a tape in your left hand and measure and mark with your right hand, the numbers are upright instead of upside down. And I've met a lot of guys that make a lot of mistakes, because it's funny. They read a number upside down. It just does not make sense to them. And this one's not bad. This is cheap. This was like $10. So if you go to Lee Valley and you're going to get something else, you throw one of these in, I think you really like it.
All
That's
right.
it. Thank you.
Any comments for Ray?
Hey, Ray, the thing I learned about millimeters is Forstner bits and millimeter sizes can fit in between your standard measurements on Forstner. So I've been ordering like 70 millimeter and a 72 because we were having a tight fitting of my son-in-law was building a artistic lamp thing and he needed a certain size. Well, I bought the Forstner bit in the millimeter size to make it fit. It was marvelous.
Well, the one of the things when you start getting up a little bit in quality, you'll see that they're marketed the same bits marketed both ways. So they'll make say a ½ inch, and I'll tell you what it also is in millimeters. But then when you order it in metric, you'll see it, and they just flip the numbers around. It's the same Forstner bit, but now it's got the, like partial millimeter in there.
Well,
so you're
well,
right.
I found out something about that. Following advice on this forum, I took a 2-inch hole saw and ground the teeth off and used it to punch out sanding discs out of long strips of sandpaper. But they were always about a millimeter small. So I went online and I found a 52 millimeter hole saw. That makes a perfect disc.
Yeah. And there's so much of it out there now. It's easy to find. It's worth going back and forth.
Hey, Ray, I missed the thing where Ernie was talking about that. Can you give us some information about where you found it?
On Lee Valley, I don't have a number on this, but if you look at it, it's
Lee Valley is it's an easy site to find your way around.
Yeah, and if it's just a folding rule, metric on one side, and it's plastic, it's Swiss made, so it's not. Well, it says it's Swiss made. Maybe they had it made in China for them. I don't know. But what is nice about this is that you can measure this, just flip it over, and there's your metric. It goes back and forth. And for a lot of guys, like Jim was saying, you buy something in metric, and then when you go to measure it, you're going to getting another tape or whatever. This you just flip over. And this is cheap. It's not expensive at all. It's plastic. It's really made pretty good for the snaps out, stays good. It's strong, it's flexible, fits in your pocket.
Yeah, I hope they give you a commission on all the ones you're going to sell today.
Well, Ernie's idea, and I figured out I wasn't up for it. And I looked at I'm a Lee Valley fan. They got some smart things and some things that are silly, But looking at this, and I got it, I didn't realize it says it's Swiss made, and the accuracy is good.
Good. That's good to hear.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Ray.
Here's my version. I went and got, I guess it's like a sewing tape, but one side's millimeter, the other side's English or whatever you want to call it, standard. And you just flip it over and you can see it. You can hold your thumbnail right there and know what it is.
Do this with it. Oh, wait a minute. It stays.
I have one of those sewing tapes too. It's helpful. And I also have a pocket tape, a regular retractable tape that's metric in inches. One edge is metric, 1 inch is inch, but I find it confusing. It's too much information. Okay, anybody else on this? Okay. Ted Lattrell, I haven't heard from you in a while either. What would you like to show us today? Or is your hand up?
Well, my hand was up. I do have something to show. Hang on, let's see if we've, there we go. Can you see it?
Yeah, we see a cat.
Yep.
Is that what you're showing us?
All right. That is what I wanted to show you. So there's a little story that goes behind this. 25 years ago, my son had what we call a spud gun. Are you guys familiar with spud guns, or should I show that? Should I explain that?
Explain it.
Okay. A spud gun is a PVC pipe about 2 inches in diameter, about 4 feet long, 3.5, 4 feet long. And on the other end of that, you put a 3.5 inch piece PVC with a screw-on cap. And what you did with those was you take a potato and you stuff the potato down the barrel fits rather snugly. you unscrew the end of it, you spray hairspray in it. So, you know, the container for the hairspray is about 18 inches long, 4 feet and 4 inches in diameter, or 3.5, 4. And you screw it back on, and there's a hole in the bottom. You use a little igniter to ignite it. And it makes a hell of a racket and shoots a potato several hundred feet. So my grandkids were hearing my son talk about this. They said, "Hey, Grandpa, we want one of those. Can you make it look like a cannon?" So I did. So that cannon is actually a spud gun. And by the way, it shoots about 300 feet down my front yard there, you can see. It was a fun project. So this is me turning a spruce tree, you know, on the lathe. And as you all know, you know, the softwoods are a pain in the butt to turn, but I turned it on the lathe. That's the front half. Then I took it to my so I had to have a 3-inch hole for the spud gun to fit in there. So I took it on my Grizzly. That was my lathe, by the way. You can check out, that's a Grizzly lathe you're talking about, John. And I cut it in half, as you can see. And the next step was how you get a barrel down through there for the spud gun. So what I did was I took a skill saw, and I didn't show it here, but I made a little diagram of different depths. And you can kind of see in the background on the bench, I cut it past with a skill saw and chipped it out so that the front part of the spud gun fit in there. And then I put it back. So that's my son making the base for the cannon. And we had a hell of a good time. The kids had a great time firing off the cannon out the porch. The funny thing was, I told my son, he says, my son was trying to get, well, it's got to look authentic. And I said, it's a kid toy. He says, no, I want it for my front deck after. So I did it for my grandson / son. And anyways, that was a little turning project I thought I'd share with you.
That's a great project. That's
So how'd you
hilarious.
make it look like a metal cannon?
Oh, well, that was pretty simple. I just bought, I sanded it as best I could. I wasn't too worried about sanding it. So, you turn pine or spruce, it's pretty rough. I smoothed it out, and we bought not spray paint. We bought regular paint. There we go. There's a spud gun.
There's another one.
We just bought black, flat black paint, and it kind of makes it look like the real thing. The funny thing is, it's a real conversation starter. All the neighbors are driving past my son's deck going, "Oh my God, it's a cannon!" When they said they bring it to the next neighborhood party. So now it seems like we have to bring the spud gun to fire off at all the neighborhood parties.
You have potatoes growing in the front yard.
We will.
It appears that the PVC part, though, is recessed into the wood. Doesn't that make for a real mess getting your potato in there?
The front, I didn't show a picture. The front of the cannon is larger than that, so you kind of you can shove it in there. We did have to take a hook and get some of the pieces out, yes, but it works. I didn't want it sticking out of the cannon.
Right.
And the fuel you're using for this is hairspray?
It's hairspray. Hairspray is mostly alcohol. Except the last one we bought had alcohol and ether. It worked pretty good. I don't know why women would spray this on their hair. I mean, my God.
Well, is the spray can in the spud gun, or do you just spray the fumes in there? What do you do? What's the process here?
You just take the back. So that ball in the back is the cover that it unscrews, and that's the screw that fits on the plastic. You spray it in.
Okay.
Screw it back
You
on.
can use WD-40 too, can't you?
You can use WD-40 works.
It's expensive.
It's just more expensive than hairspray.
I'm going to put the spotlight back on Carl. He's in there over there showing us his spud gun.
Yeah,
some more.
show us. Carl can show us. Yeah. So mine is very similar. Now, Carl, you have what do you have on the side? Is that like a battery for your igniter?
Well, that's one thing I was going to comment on. If you want to you can use starting fluid, which smells like model air. And if you want a good ignition source, you use a taser, which is what I use. And it jumps about a 3/4 inch gap. I can't release the space bar to show you, but you can see little wires on the side. There's one on each side. And I just mounted everything on a crutch just to be comical about the whole thing. But if you load it right and get the right air to fuel a garbage can, it put a serious little kink in one side, so it would break ribs if it hit you right. There's no question about it. That's my contribution, but thanks for sharing.
It's definitely a fun toy. You have to be careful with them. We used to make mashed potatoes hitting targets on the tree. In regards to the whether you use hairspray or Ethernet or starting fluid, there was a study done by somebody in Germany, and they did all of the propellants and measured the velocity. It turns out hairspray is about the best for muzzleloader, about 154 feet per second.
You guys are crazy.
You fire that at night?
Yes, and it makes a hell of a nice flash out the muzzle.
The fireball and the PVC lights up, but neighbors call the cops.
You want to watch out you don't light the potato as well.
They're pretty wet.
No.
Someone on here.
Guys have fun. I can see that. You need to take a roll of toilet paper, saturate it with starting fluid, and ram it down there, and then you have a flame for, I don't know, a couple 100 feet or something.
Way too
jail
dangerous.
time that goes with it.
Yeah, you burn the neighborhood down. We don't need that. This is not Ukraine.
When I was in college, I went spelunking, and we used the old style miner's lamps with cyanide rock or whatever in it, and you put moisture in it, and that's what made the gas. Well, we did that same thing with tennis ball cans. Put a rock in the bottom, spit on it, had a little hole for the match, jammed the tennis ball down, and boy, it would fire the tennis ball. Man, that was fun. Well, I'm going to go do that again. My grandson would love that. So.
Juvenile delinquents. Well, while you're talking juvenile delinquent, Bowman, what do you got today? You got your hand up.
Yeah, I got two little hints. If any of you guys, I think Randy has a lathe like me, the XP, the Nova. If you have any lathe that has the little plasticky buttons for you to do things, they don't have knobs but buttons. I got tired of having to reach up a couple times to hit it. So I said, there's got to be a better way. So I went and got these self-adhesive felt tips that you use on the bottom of chairs and stuff. I put a big one on my stop one. It covers the whole thing. I put a smaller one on the start. So I knew by just reaching over which one I was hitting. And it works like bingo. It just, I don't have to reach up a couple times. I hit it and I can hit it hard. It doesn't hurt. So if you got those cheapo, which I hate, plastic covered switches, that's a good trick. The other one is, some of you guys do epoxy. I poured an epoxy bowl basically in a bottom of I buy a paint can from Home Depot. And to use my separator, I use mineral oil. I just put it in. I have a lot of it sitting on the shelf, so I smear it real good, pour it, and then 3 days later, when it's hard cured, try to get it out. It's supposed to let go, well, but there's a suction. You know, it's that tight that you can't pull it out. So my son said to me, well, Dad, let it in your shop overnight when it was like we were down in the 20s in the shop. And then in the morning, stick it in a warm bucket of water. And I did that. And man, it just came right out. That plastic moves enough with the heat. And it just dropped right out. So I just thought, if you have the same problem, just stick it outside for a while, freeze it, and then heat the bucket and it'll drop right out. That's all.
Okay. Comments or questions for that? Okay. Randy, what do you got?
As John mentioned earlier, the Susquehanna Woodturners is participating in the farm show this year. It starts on January the 7th and runs to the 14th. And we are looking for people who want to participate.
What does participation consist of?
We try to have 2 people at our demonstration. We will have a lathe set up, safety shields. We're in a good condition, a good position right near the butter sculpture for everybody who knows where that is. And we have generally one person who's doing actual turning and another person who is kind of working the crowd. And we get crowds of 50 to 60 people around our area because they all want to see what's going on.
What's the actual turning consist of? What are you turning?
Just small items because we don't want to do a lot of sanding because it creates too much dust and we don't have the equipment to control it.
What do you mean small items?
Things like tops and mushrooms and small trees and
eggs and pens.
So I hope small bowls would be okay too. But we kind of discourage either finishing or sanding.
So what are the hours?
Make pens.
How long is the shift?
The shifts run, we have 2 shifts a day. One is from 8:30 in the morning till, or from 9:30 in the morning till 2:30 in the afternoon, and then 2:30 in the afternoon to 8:30 at night.
And the dates?
The 7th to the 14th.
Of January in Harrisburg at the farm show.
Yes.
And so,
if you want to sign up, get your information to me or Tim Starlip or ASAP because we do send out parking passes to people who are going to be demonstrating. Farm show attendance is free, but the farm show does charge for parking.
now I know that Ron has signed up to demonstrate. Who else have you got?
Yes. I think Toby has signed up for it, and let's see who else is in.
I mean, how many do you need?
We need quite a few. If you send me an email, I have the sign-up sheet and a schedule chart that's online. You can just update it, and that's a done deal from there on out.
Okay.
And I'll post my email address in the chat.
Any questions for Randy?
Randy, why don't you put the address for the sign-up sheet? Put that in the chat.
Okay, let me see if I will. I have to find it.
The sign-up spreadsheet,
No,
it's real
you're
easy.
signed up too.
You just sign up on the sheet and it puts you in the whatever time slot you want.
Toby just put it in the chat.
Yeah, I just posted it.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Thanks, Toby.
Now, what do you need to bring of your own stuff? Do you need your own face shield, your own tools? What's the deal?
Yes, any tools you need, you can bring. We will have the lathe, scroll chuck. Although you can bring your own.
What lathe is it?
It's a small jet lathe.
Okay, so it's like a 1/8 spindle?
Yes.
1 inch.
Yes. And we will have an adapter. So if you have 1/4, 1 1/4 spindle nose or scroll chuck or something like that that you need, you can mount it with that.
Okay. And do you bring your own wood or do you have wood?
We will be getting wood from Woodcraft, but of course you can bring your own wood if you want.
Okay, so if you're going to go and demo, are you like demoing from 9 till 2:30 on your whole shift, or is there 2 guys in that slot?
No, in fact, we have people that go there and don't do any turning at all. You can talk to the crowd the whole time. We'll have a display case there with turned items. Some of them are unique, some of them are very nice.
But if I wanted to turn, would I be in for like turning for an hour, for half an hour, for 2 hours? What's the drill? Or does it matter?
It depends on the other person.
Okay.
Two guys will split off time, and then if you want to take a break, go get lunch or whatever, one guy's there. That works out also.
Okay. do that at a show in Rochester 45 years ago, 50 years ago. It was a lot of fun. I'd be interested in doing it again, but I'm not sure I'll be able to make it in that time window. I guess other state fairs and clubs do the same thing. Is anybody else participate in this sort of thing somewhere else?
The Delaware club that I'm a member of does it. I haven't participated, but they do it for the Delaware State Fair.
We do it at a wood show locally, and it's a riot. It make tops for kids. I've had whole families stand there for 2 hours. Oh, it made stuff for each of the kids.
I saw that at the Gonchahoppen Festival, which is like the old crafts and old treadle lathes. There were people who were, that's all they were doing. They'd watch all afternoon long.
We had the Lancaster area Woodturners and the York area Woodturners participated in this for a number of years as well as we rotated it through. One of the things that I know that you're going to do, Randy, I'm assuming is you're going to have pamphlets for the Susquehanna Woodturners so that people know where to contact, because there's a lot of people wanting to know, hey, where's a club near me and stuff like that. So that's the other.
We have about 250 of them for the farm show, and we pass them out on a regular basis. And we actually do get some members who join our club, because they saw it at the farm show.
There is also a locked display booth there. I don't know how much you've got in there, but in the past we've had some pretty good displays in there of stuff that guys have done, and it's locked up overnight, so stuff stays there. But I don't know where that is right now, whether that's going to be filled up or not.
Yeah, we'll have that. We'll have that also. Yeah, that gets a good crowd too, and people ask questions, and that's the second person on the team. We'll talk to them and explain. And we also have cards we can't sell things there, but you can hand cards out to people if they're interested in a certain piece or want something made, custom made.
Okay.
Hearn Lumber or Hearn Hardwood in Oxford does an annual like weekend of, hey, what do we do wood-wise? The Delaware Club demos there as well. So there's a potential link up with a lumber yard who does a show. So.
Well, we're at the Nittany Valley Woodturners, and we go to the People's Choice Arts Festival, and whenever the arts festivals are up here in State College. We demo at that. We demo at the Bull Mansion. They have a celebration. And we also try to do some of the state parks. So we've done state parks before. So if anybody hasn't ever gone and done a live demo in front of people, you should try it. It's really a lot of fun. And watching the kids' faces, it's just incredible.
Yeah, it's like having a whole room full of grandchildren. And on that note, everyone, it's 11 o'clock, and it's been a perfectly lovely hour as usual, and as always on this on Thursday mornings. This is the last of the year, and we'll see you all in the new year. Thursday morning coffee hour next Thursday, January.
Happy New Year.
I don't know what the date is. Happy New Year to all.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Great
Happy New Year, guys.
Bye-bye.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
So long, Don.
Yep. Bye-bye.
Wood shop. Thank God for wood.